Hello folks, and welcome to Linux Lite. So I did a video the other day for another distribution that's also considered beginners, and I had a very large response, so I thought I'd do the same for this distribution with a slight different twist. And this is a application that I wrote, and you can too, and I'll show you how to do this. This is a cutesy little thing about guessing events or birthdays. So an example is all you need is the month and year, and you can get and tell your friends or family the day of the week they were born on. So in the example here, it's month and year, month space year, January space 1970, or 1 space 1970 is the format. I'll use 2 for February, and I'll make up a year, 1987. So if you have a friend born February 1987 and that friend of yours or family member was born on the 16th, he or she was born on a Monday. You can have all kinds of fun with this. I'm filming in 1920 by 1080, so you can adjust your YouTube player accordingly if this is too small. I film usually directly out of the desktops. And you are watching this on Linux for Seniors. If you don't see that icon and you'd like to subscribe, go find me on YouTube. How about a little trivia for you folks, because this will just keep looping. This is a little different from the application that I wrote for the other distribution, but that was also a beginner's distribution. So some of you folks are from the United States, so we can talk about Independence Day, July 4th, 1776. What day of the week did that fall on? You can use the internet, but I can show it to you faster. That is a Thursday in 1776. You can also plug in events in time. Let's say if you're a historian and you're looking for May of 1556, there's the calendar from May of 1556. So if you got a specific date in mind, like the 27th, that was a Wednesday in 1556 May. That's the year and month. This will just keep looping. So I used slightly different codes on this one than I did on a previous one, but anyways, it's the same concept though. If you'd like to learn how to do that, continue watching this video. I'll walk you through the complete process. They're done with launchers though, to actually launch them, but they're done with script files. And I'll walk you through that. Our user for today's Linux, Lite 1. Sometimes I don't remember what usernames I give it. Anyways, Thunar, file manager, file system, root. This is bin, the bin directory or a link to the bin directory. In here is an application program called bash. Born Again Shell is what that stands for, and it's located in bin, so hence bin bash. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up an application that I wrote in this folder. That starts with bin bash. Okay, so basically I'm going to open this with a text editor, and the first line that it says is bin bash on it. So you have a text editor, and I'll explain every one of these lines, folks, so don't worry about that. So this is Mousepad. You can use other text editors, but this just happened to be convenient. So the script actually was written in a different application, different system, but I brought it into Linux Lite and just made some slight adjustments. So as with anything in any programming language, whether it's Bash or other languages like Python, you can use different codes for some of the same jobs. So the first line here says #/ bin and / bash. If you've never heard of my channel, I did several videos for Linux Lite. Some of these in here I've actually produced before and shown this. So I believe this one here is actually written with also Mousepad, and it uses rsync. That's to back up files. So pardon me, little frog in my throat there. So anyways, I'm going to open this script back up again. And again, as long as you understand that you can right-click, create an empty file, and you can create your own script. You can call it X if you like. And again, this is a text editor, not a word processor, if you've never done one of these. but I'm going to walk you through the complete process today if you'd like to create your first script file. All right, so we're going to open this up with mousepad, and we're going to start with line 1. Line 1 says bin bash on it. Again, the location of where born again shell is in bin. So pound exclamation point. Your upper keys on your upper row is 3 and 1 with the shift key. Normally produce those symbols. /bin /bash, there's no spaces. Line 2 says while space colon. And line 3 says do. These two commands here start a loop from line 4 all the way to line 20. That's a loop. All right. This is an exit statement. It's just used for safety reasons. In case something goes wrong with the script, it'll automatically exit. In other words, if something goes wrong here, it just terminates the app just like you do in that X. All the stuff with the pound symbols is just plain old text. It's just used to describe stuff. Simple, bash, born again shell, birthday, b-day, guess, or event. 23 has a pound in front of it, so that's a description of something. The read P is used as an input line. And the date is going to be the input field. The cal is the calendar command. And line 25 says this line with pound is just text. It's exactly what they are. So as I pointed out, the while do starts a loop. And then let me open the script up so you can see what I'm talking about, so we're both on the same page. The echo line just says print something on this screen in this terminal box. In this case, simple bash application is what it's going to print. Whatever you do, whether it's uppercase, lowercase, misspelled, whatever, it's just plain text. Starts with a quote, ends with a quote on line 5. And the reason I did it that way, just to show you some different examples. There are many things that I can do to change this. There's also different commands I could use, but I just chose these today. They're slightly different if you saw my other video already. All right, so now that you got that line done, you can see there's a space in here, and that's all achieved by that line 5 with the X. This is the starting of the quote and ending of the quote on line 5. The next line is number 6, echo more text. In other words, display the rest of this sample, simple text app, blah, blah, blah. And then I terminated the text at this line, and then I began another echo line, and then terminated that again, and another echo line. I did it just to keep it in perspective of a small box. Other than that, I could have used line 6 and typed all that on a single line, and that will end up with a box about that long. That's not what my intent was. But there's also another way of doing it. But again, this is the method that I chose today. When I get to line 9, that's where the year part comes in. I could also put a period there if I want, but anyways, I just left it the way it is. Line 10 says echo double quotes means skip a line. Skips a line to line 11, which is a read P, which is explained in my notes downstairs. So the read P is used for input, and the input is going to be date. So let's go back up to that line. Line 11 is read P. That's where we're at right now. It's waiting for me to input something. Whenever you write these kind of things, and especially for people that have no idea what this does, you're going to have to tell the user what you're asking for. If you just put a blank blinking box, in most cases you may know what it does, but the user doesn't. If the person that has never seen this script file. So give that some piece of text to allow the user to understand what you're asking for. That's what I wrote this in there for. So the read P, quote, enter month and year only. And then I added the equal sign. And if you notice the white box has skipped a line in between it, that's achieved with skipping this area in here. I put the equal sign, then I put a space, and then the quote. That gives me just enough space to do the enter box in here. And right now it's waiting for you to input something, and that turns that input into date. And then it continues processing after I put in something. If I put in garbage like that, it will actually print back garbage. It's not valid. But it's still below it still says this information. And then it starts the loop all over again. So I'm going to put in, this time I'm going to put in 3 for March 1967. So as I entered March, keep in mind I was up here a couple seconds ago, and then I typed that in, and then it skipped down to below is the month, because that's exactly what it's doing. I'm now down on line 13. So now that it prints this on the screen, below is the month and year via the echo statement, and then it ends with a quote unquote. That's exactly what you're seeing here with the highlighter. So, and then it skips. Now this one says cal not valid because I entered that information earlier. So that means I'm too far up. So basically in here though, this is where I entered that information. And now we can see this part here is the same as the one up here also. But then after I punch that in, it says skip a line and then process this command. This is the whole script right in a nutshell. It took me all this information just to allow you to see what to enter in here. So the whole script is actually fluff too. You can run these commands directly in terminal. I'll show you that toward the end of the video. But right now we're at the stage where it says cal, and I made a statement downstairs that 24, cal is the calendar command. The born again shell command for calendar is cal. The $date is just go grab the input of this. That's all that means. So process whatever the user typed in and hit enter. That's why you're able to see a calendar in here. Then it skips a line because I put in an echo, quote unquote, means skip a line. And then it says echo, print something to the screen. Please hit close to exit app. It's asking the user to close if they're finished. If they're not, this will continually loop. That's why it just moves to the next dash, dash, dash. And then when it hits done, it goes back upstairs and starts this all over again. That is why that does that. Please hit exit, and then the dashes are down here. And then it loops back around. I keep losing this box. It loops back around and starts again with simple bash application, because that is the top line up here. That's this line. So it's looping over and over again. But it did process the information and it remains on the screen. And you can scroll up and down until you close this box. So I'll put in several entries. I'll put in May of 1956, for instance. And there's the calendar for May of 1956. I'll put in a couple of more. Here's 4 of 1990. That's close enough. And one more for some time back in time, 6/12/45, the year 1245. And then I can scroll up and down and look at these things in individual formats. So as soon as I see a dash, that means that this belongs in here. And this part here is the next one. Starts again with simple bash, new entries, new entries, new entries, and keeps going until you hit close. Okay? So we're down here now. If something happens in the script, then it'll do an exit. Other than that, it'll just keep looping. So it kept looping. That means it never hit line 21. On all this pound stuff is just simple text. This line is plain old text. It's just used to describe things. Sometimes I do this and sometimes I don't. It's a good idea though when you write things to explain this to yourself even. Because, you know, when I write a whole bunch of these things, sometimes I forget what I'm using these commands for. Now that you know how that's written, let's talk about what we do with this file afterwards. After you write this in a text editor, you right-click, Properties, and you make sure that's run as a program. This will normally be off. If you don't do that, you're not going to process this correctly. Now, I've tried this earlier and I could not get the desktop link to work, so hence I created launchers instead. So let's do that. Right-click, Create Launcher. I'll do something goofy first. So we're just going to call this B-Day just to be simple. You can name it whatever you want. And then I'm going to click that and go find the file, which is in my home directory under scripts. It doesn't have to be under scripts, it's just wherever you save those things. And hit open. You probably want an icon, and you can pick any icon from the system, and you can even pick your own icons. So the first one I'm going to do is something goofy. And anytime you use your own icons, make sure that you don't rename the main folder and the icon itself. Otherwise you get a blank icon when you reboot. Because it's an index, it's a pointer. It needs to find your icon. I'm going to use Stormtrooper guy. Run in terminal. Create. Double click. You want it on the panel, right click, open with create launcher on panel, and then you can move that anywhere you want, where you can see a red line. Single click here, double click here. Box works the same way. Keeps looping around, right? Okay, now you can also create a second launcher using the same script file. So let me explain a little bit about launchers if you're not familiar with them. So all of the stuff that I'm going to be showing you here also can be done in terminal. But all I'm doing is creating a shortcut, if you want to call it that, to the script file using a fancy icon. So we'll just call this one bday2 or something like that. And we can assign it a different application, yes, or icons also. So in this case, we're still dealing with the same script file, just to be consistent. And now I'm going to do the standard icon, not the goofy looking Stormtrooper guy. I'll just use that one. You can use any icons, they're just icons. But you do want to run these in terminal, especially if you've written this script this way. Because it's meant to be run in terminal. And it does work, as you can see. Same deal, right click, open with create launcher on panel, right click, move, and drop it wherever you want. Single click here, double click here. So there's a lot of commands that you can run directly out of terminal. Okay, so I'm going to be showing you a couple of these things. Now if you type in top with capital letters, that'll fail. If you type in top with lowercase, it will run. And it's the same thing with your launchers. I'm going to close that window. When you are typing this command in here with uppercase letters, it will actually give you a hint. It says, are you sure you want the capital letters top? Because it's not going to accept those. Watch what happens when I try to do this. Okay, so first of all, it's going to try to take a guess what the heck I'm trying to do in here, but I'm just going to do it this way. And you can assign it an icon if you like. I'll just do this one. And we're going to run that in terminal because top does need to be run in terminal. And let's see what happens. Fail to execute. Because it doesn't understand what top is. Linux is literal. So that is no good. So when you're running top, for instance, it needs to be run as a lowercase process. Okay? I'm going to type it clear. You can also type in cal and get a calendar. That is command not found. Lowercase cal is what I was using in my script file and what you're going to be using in terminal. I'm going to punch up clear. Cal space 1 is month. Space year. There you go. Now you don't have to use a script file, for instance, unless you want to. Make cutesy little icons for it. So if you type in cal, Jan 1970 is the same. However, if you type in cal, Jan 12 1970, it's going to complain. Bad format. If you type in cal and a bunch of gibberish, then you'll get the not valid year. The same thing goes with this. When I put in gibberish in here, I also get an error. Not valid year. Same thing. Okay. Now I'm going to type clear, and then we're going to type in cal, space, May 1967. We can also type in upper arrow key and change the year to 1556. Now you have May of 1967 and the year 1556. I hit the upper arrow key on my keyboard to repeat that same statement, and I can back this up to here and type in a 2 space something more modern, 1978, February of 1978, upper arrow key, and I can change that year to 1979. And that's for the next year, from 78 to 79. Upper arrow key, 1776. July 4th still falls on a Thursday in 1776. That part doesn't change. Thank you for watching, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed this.